G'day guys, what's cracking? It's Ralph here, and today I have for you the 50mm autofocus 1.4 APS-C lens from Brightin Star. So this is APS-C, so when you put it on your full frame Sony camera, you have to go into the menu and adjust the menu so it recognizes an APS-C. Otherwise you see everything with a big black line all the way around it. At the same time, you need to recognize that you're going to lose megapixels. So when you go to APS-C, it's less megapixels. 50mm is the equivalent to about an 80mm. So where you think 50mm is this, on APS-C it's much narrower. So having got those things out of the way, should we have a look? It is a good looking lens and it's all metal. It comes in a metal case, big lens hood with a button here. You push the button, slides off. You can turn that around, slide it back on. But for the sake of the review today, we're going to take that off. Has your lens cap that you click in, opens up, and you find out it's a 58mm thread from here to here. So if you want to put a filter on it, 58mm is the one that you're looking for. It just looks good. I love how it starts small here and it gets kind of fatter out here. It's a very simple lens. Simply has your focus ring here that you can override completely on your Sony, or you can choose the setting where you can go autofocus and this if you want to actually change where the focus is at and what's happening. Has a minimum focusing distance of 1/2 meter, which is an interesting experience. So 1/2 meter is like from me to you. Well, not you like if you're sitting on your lounge and you're watching this, but me to the screen, right? So that's 1/2 meter. And so I would need to be about here to have that in focus. 1/2 meter focusing distance does create some challenges, especially if you think, oh, I just want to get, say, here. It'd be good if there was a shorter minimum focusing distance so you could make the most of that 1.4 bokeh and really have something in detail nice and close and the rest just shot to bokeh. Anyway, if you take off the cap, you have a beautiful metal E-mount that goes on your Sony mirrorless. And so we're going to put this on the Sony mirrorless. We're going to have a wander around Brisbane and we're going to see how it goes. Now you'll see this image in the top left hand corner is the metadata for the image. This is the very first shot I take. So my daughter, she was wondering what was going on. But what I want to show you is look how sharp it gets. Look how sharp that is. And that's zoomed in. This is zoomed into at 300, 400% on a 24 megapixel photo shot at 1/200 at 3.2. And look how quickly, see, her hair's still in focus because she was a couple of meters away from me, but this goes into bokeh really, really quickly. So this is what happens when your model, oh, this is the hammer, when your model gets a bit too close, a bit too enthusiastic, and it doesn't quite hold it in focus because he's actually moving and too close to me. So if he'd have been back like another 10 centimeters, he would have been in focus, but he was just too enthusiastic. Like, I love the skin tones as well. It's nice and smooth. Fades away to bokeh really quickly. This is on f1.4, so very quickly it pops him out of the background. And just want to show you how sharp it is. Look at that. Look how sharp. Like, that is sharp, right? That is like, woo, sharp. So very impressed there. And if we go to Zari, same deal, nice and sharp. So even in lower light, it seems to really go hard on the sharpness, which I'm really stoked about. This is a f1.4 and 1/1000th. So it shot like this because it was so wide open. And when you shoot 1.4, it allows so much light in that you can really control the ISO, providing you nail your focus. You've got to nail your focus, and that boils down to how well you shoot on your Sony or how advanced your Sony is to take care of autofocus for you. But then they had this neon thing, and what happened was you go in and there were all these neon shots. This was off an old church, and that's kind of what I tried to get the focus on, and it wouldn't, and then I had to go to manual to focus in like this. So that's nice and sharp and that does the job. But when it's shooting dark, like really dark, with something that's bright, that's trying to nail the focus, it really got confused about what was what and where it should focus. And I found that time and time again in the neon factory, the neon lights we went into. So this is manual focused in on here and just fades away. And you can see how quickly at f1.4, it goes from in focus to not in focus to not in focus very quickly. And that was about a meter above my head that I was shooting. This cafe sign was just really cool. It picked up focus really easily on this when I was shooting at this angle, but when I'm shooting when there's more light and more brightness on a different angle, it really struggled. Same with no vacancy. I like that. And you're starting to get a feel of what it looked like when you're taking neon, because neon, when you just get the raw of neon, it doesn't look really wow. It looks like, oh, it's a bit strange. But when you just get a tiny bit of like out of focus, just the tiniest bit on neon, it really pops and looks good like that. And then they have this play sign, and you can see the focus here. I'm pretty much bang on, like straight, like shooting it straight. I'm holding the camera above my head and shooting straight, and it does a really good job. Then they went long distance. And look at the ISO is 1250 at f2.5, 1/400. So I perhaps could have dropped that down to 1/200. I could have put the f-stop on f4 and reduced the ISO to maybe 800, and it might have come up a little bit better. But I like this shot, and I'm going to crop it, and I'm going to put some images. I'm going to edit these images up so you can have a look at what they look like in the final part of this video if you're keen. Look, it nailed this focus. That's what I was focusing on, so it nailed that. And then you can see it slip away at f2.5 to blurry up here and even blurry here. Then we went outside. It's Zari, my daughter, doing some tricks and that sort of thing. This was really low light. It was a really, really dark room. You couldn't see much. It was really quite gloomy, and so therefore the photos didn't pop, but it was good to see how the lens would go. So at 1/200 at f1.4, it holds your ISO really, really low, but the autofocus, if you're shooting on an older camera, might really struggle. So just keep that in mind. You can, of course, go to manual focus on it, which I did a couple of times, like with this next shot. So that was caught in manual focus, and I was really quite pleased. Same room, just turn direction. So that's Margaret, my mother-in-law, and then Zari decided to do this jump. This is 1/200, and I was shooting on a continuous focus, so I was tracking her as she jumped, but it is a bit blurry. I could have shot it on a higher shutter speed of say 1/500 or 1/1000. It would have caught her really clear, but I like the drama. I like the bit of a blur that it has on it, and she was stoked with it, and that's really all that matters, isn't it? So then she went here. Look how clear that is. Look how sharp. So I just really enjoy the sharpness of this lens and what it can achieve. This is now on f9, so this one in particular catches all that in focus, obviously, but I really like this shot. All the scooters lined up, but everything else seems to be held in focus. This was across the road at f9, so really quite impressive at f9. Then f9 shooting through a window at this chick whose head turns into a car. There was quite a commotion actually about this photo, so I'm taking the photo, and they're like, oh, they're all taking a photo. I'm like, oh man. Anyway, just love what she was doing with that. And a 1600 ISO, a little bit noisy right there. It should be noisier in the dark. No, not too bad. That's pretty good. And then Zari's just like performing a bit more. And I found that on f9, it struggled to kind of make her pop. She's not as clear and sharp as I would have liked to her to be. So it seems as it works its way up the aperture rating that the sharpness gets a little bit compromised, that it's not quite as sharp as you'd hope it to be. This is the... See, that's not too bad. That's pretty sharp. I don't know. It's sharper on the lower end, but less in focus. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's much truth to that, but that was just my experience. This is on f6.3, and that's quite sharp. Don't mind that at all. Then we went low light in this pub. I just took this shot, not because it was a great shot, but because I wanted to see how it would go in low light. So 6400 on the ISO. And, you know, what do you think? If you edit that up, it doesn't come up bad at all, does it, right? Like, I mean, it's not a great photo because it's pretty boring, but if it were a good photo, at 6.3, and I'm focusing here, so these folks are blurry straight away. Super noisy too. But you, oh, that is so noisy. Once you start to get around about here, it starts to get blurry and out of focus, and they're really out of focus on 6.3. My father-in-law, this is f2.8 over dinner. So yeah, look, it picks up a face really well, doesn't it? It looks good. And Ian will be like, oh, I look good. See, you said I look good. No, the lens is looking good, Ian. The lens is looking good. You can make of the rest of it what you will. And then finally, just a drink, and just love the textures on it. And it seemed to hold all them well at f2.5. So immediately, if you go down here, this is your field of focus. See that? And then everything else is blurry, and you get nice bokeh. Look at that, nice round bokeh. bokeh. I'm an Aussie bloker. Bokeh, because of the 9-blade system in the aperture ring. One of the things I do need to point out is the autofocus on this at times was a little bit hit and miss. It was a little bit slow, and I actually think that's because this is an A7R2. If I shoot on a faster, better Sony, you'll get more out of this lens. So if you're shooting on a lower grade, older Sony, you won't get the most out of this lens. But if you're shooting on a top of the range Sony, you'll really you'll get much more out of this, as according to what you just saw on those images. So what do you? Oh, I kicked my camera under the camera. Hey. Sorry. So what do you think? Love to hear your reactions to this lens, see what you think down below. Thanks Brightin Star for sending it to me. It's been interesting to explore your range of lenses and how they work and what you've made for different cameras. They've gone for the metal. Metal's really nice. It protects the lens, so if you drop it, there's less chance you're going to break it. You might just dent it. That might be an extra trouble in a different way, because instead of cracking it, a crack or a bend, it doesn't matter. It's still not good news, but it's pretty tough. I wouldn't be worried about bending it. It does cost more because it's metal, and it does cost more to ship more because it's metal, but it feels good in the hand, and you have automatic stabilization because of the weight of the lens. And with 9-bladed aperture and your 32-degree field of view, I can offer this to you. What do you think about it? You've seen my images. What do you reckon? You think you get it? Under what circumstances? What would you use it for? Love to hear from you. Hope this review's been helpful. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.